Okay, part 14 of the Fragger tutorial. Let's go for another particle effect. Now, it's going to be similar to the spreading circle one, because we're going to do everything in a loop and I want to use the same parameters. So I'm just going to copy the entire subroutine, okay, down to the closing brace, which is there. There should always be 2 at the bottom. Okay, so I'll copy that and I'm going to paste it straight after that. So before the 2 final braces. Okay, I'm going to change the name because it will go and moan at me if I don't. So I'm going to call this random spread. Okay, right, that's gone and moved over, so I'm just going to tab that in using these increase indent icons. Right, to make this work we need to be able to generate some random numbers. Okay, and the easy way of doing that built for us already is a random number generator, which I'm going to add to the top of the particle class. So I'm going to say random r equals new random. Okay, but I need to make sure I make this static, otherwise I won't be able to access it. Okay, so this is just going to generate random numbers for us. So let's go back down to our code. We don't need to do the fancy thing inside the for loop, so we're going to get rid of that. Okay. Most of the things are going to be the same, but because we want it random, we're going to pick a random angle. So if we go to this bit, we're going to say r.next 360, and that'll pick as a random number between 0 and 359. Okay, we still want the speed bit, that's the same. The kill time and everything and the history, none of those are going to change. Okay, so we're just going to generate a random amount from random angles. So we don't want those 2 floats. Okay, right, let's see what the effect of that is. If that was too quick, go back and just watch the vid again. I haven't changed much, just taken a few, I've simplified it really. So I'm going to go back to tank and I'm going to find tank hit. Death is where I did it, yeah. So I'm going to comment out I'm going to copy and paste my circle spread one, and I'm going to comment that out, one of them, and I'm going to double click this, delete it and press dot to get random spread. So all the same parameters. Okay, now I'm not going to generate 100 sprites this time, I'm just going to generate 20. Yeah, I'll just generate 20. Okay, so I'm using the exact same parameters, but I'm generating 20 rather than 100. Let's just run it and see what it does. So before we had like a spreading circle or an expanding circle, this is going to be 20 pixels flying in different directions. Okay, so you see the effect of that. So a little bit random. So the next time I shoot the yellow tank, it won't be exactly the same. It's a different pattern every time. And that's where that random number generator comes in. Now what we might want to do is put a bit more history on this. History was that one. So let's put 40. So we'll record 40 previous positions of the sprites, the little particles as they move. Watch it this time. And we might want to alter the alpha to make it more visible. So again, I'm just playing with the numbers, I'm not doing anything fancy. That second bullet should get him. No, first one got him. So you see it's more of a trace effect there. If we put full alpha on for the first history sprite, it still fades them out, but it just starts solid. One of them's going to get it. So you're getting a different effect. Let's add. I think I'll leave it at that. Okay. Particle systems. I mean, this isn't. You wouldn't, if you was going to do this for a full-on game, you wouldn't do a particle system this way. I'm just making it easy by using the sprite system. But the sprites are quite burdensome. They're quite large, and you would probably build a little custom sprite to do particles, and have them drawn independently from the whole sprite thing, because there's lots of things going on with the sprite that a particle doesn't really need to know about, and a lot of particle systems are done actually but entirely on the graphics cards, because graphics cards can do lots and lots of like angle calculations and transforms and things like that that the CPU gets mullered doing. So you know, you wouldn't necessarily do it, but it's an easy way of putting them in to my engine as it is. I ought to build a particle system for it really, but it's time as usual with everything that I try and do. Okay, that's it. That was the shortest video I've created. So let's just look at the bullets hitting some of the other types of tiles. So what I might do, it's the tanks, isn't it? As the tanks are moving over stuff. Where was that? I can't remember what the subroutine was called for that. It would be the movement ones, won't it? Yeah, we got this little bit of thing. Oh, if we found sand, do this. So what we could do, let's see if we can create a particle system. Or we'll just make this isn't planned. I'm just going to go for it on this one, and I'm going to call it dust. And I need the position, so I need to know where the tank is. So I can say tank dot center 2D. That's what I'm going to want. I'm going to want a colour. For me dust, I'm going to use yellow. Well, we want to be able to see it, don't we? So let's use colour dot. I'm going to get Visual Studio to create this subroutine skeleton for me. What should we have? Light brown. Light brown. Is there a light brown? Let's go. Let's type brown. So sandy brown. That'll do me. Let's have a number of them. So let's have 20. And we'll leave it at that. Or should we? Yeah, we'll leave it at that. Okay, right, we're going to create this, so we're going to right click, go to definition. Oh, no we're not. We're going to go right click, generate method stub. Okay, right, so we're now going to say right click, go to definition. So here we go, we've got our little static thing. Right, I'm going to copy the code that we used. Well, now I'm going to create it from scratch because I'm being lazy. Right, so I'm going to say for int I equals naught, I is less than parameter p I plus plus. Right, these are silly positions, so I'm going to call that parameter start. Colour's alright, but p needs to be number. Okay, so let's copy that and replace p with number. So we're going to create some sprites. Equals gm.enginemanager.add sprite. So in this loop, we create each time we create a sprite. p.frame.define is gm.enginemanager.single white pixel. The p.wash is going to be our color parameter. And what we're going to do is we're going to take the start position. So we can say p.position to the well, we'll do it this way. p.x equals start.x plus a little bit of randomness. Okay, so I'm going to say next -5 to 5. Now we could have made these parameters, So we had a little bit of control of the spread. And p dot y, do the same thing, start dot y plus r dot next. I'm not going to make the spread too big on that. I'm going to say naught. Let's go -2 to minus to 2. Okay, might have to play with that. Now we want these to move, and we want them to move at an angle, so they like drift up the screen a little bit. How should we do this? We're going to need to kill them after a certain amount of time, so let's do the timer bit first. So initialize the timer, kill after 0. So a tenth of a second. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get them to move under gravity. So I'm going to say p.gravity equals new vector 3, because this is a 3-dimensional thing, and I'm going to make gravity go in a funny direction. So I'm going to make it not apply up and down, I'm going to make these drift upwards but towards the right, as if the wind's blowing from the right. So I'm going to say 100, and because that's right, and then minus 100, that's up. Not bothered about z. Okay, now in order for this to work I need to have some mass, so I'm going to set the mass to 100,000 tons. Okay, for each one of these particles, just to make them move. It's not real gravity, it's just a simulation of. I need the history code, so I'm going to put some history gold p dot history depth equals 10. I don't want too much history. Fade. Shall we do some alpha fading on this? Clump. Let's just do clump alpha at 0.5 if, and the sampling rate. I'm going to go for this time history.show 100, so 100 times a second. Okay, which is the maximum that it will work, because the update engine's running at 100 times a second. It's only been drawn 60, but it's updated faster. Okay, so well, let's just run it and see what it does. It might look absolutely rough, so I've got to drive over the sand for this to happen. Really ought to take account the direction that the tank's going, which we could do, but that's going to start getting complicated. Right, let's drive my red tank, see what we get. Yeah, it looks ridiculous. So they just appeared, and they're not really drifting up, they're dying very quick. There's guff there. We need to set the Z position, or put them in a different layer. So if we put them in a layer and we say render layer dot sprite 1, by default all sprites are drawn on layer 0. Any sprite on sprite 1 is drawn after all of those. Same for sprite 2 and sprite 3, and the final sprite layer is HUD, which we use for our title graphic. Now they're not living long enough. Okay, so I'm going to, just so to make sure they're working, I'm going to set the kill after to 1 second. So let's run it again. It's an effect. It needs a bit of refinement. Let's drive the other tank. Yeah, we need to fade that a bit. So we need to set the default alpha for this sprite down a bit, I think. So let's p.alpha equals 0.3f, so 30% transparent already when it starts. Okay, let's try that. No, it also almost makes them white. No, they're probably living too long. It looks like it's an exhaust fume. So you could actually make little exhaust fumes by doing this. But yeah, just to show you. That you could easily do that. Okay. So you could spend a little time making some different particle type effects. Maybe we should just make it, the gravity affect it in the Y direction. So if we just make that 0 for the X. Try it again, see what it looks like. Might look a little bit more convincing. Although a dog swinging off a giraffe's tail would probably look more convincing as a dust effect than that. Maybe the time should be a little bit random. Let's add a little bit of randomness to the time. So we're killing it after a second. So let's kill it after 0.5f plus r dot. And the problem with the random number generator is it generates double values, double precision. So we'll do that. And that generates a number between 0 and 1. So really I don't want it that big, so I'm going to times it by 0.5. I can times it by 0.5f, that'll be alright. So that'll give me a total value between 0.5 and 1. So there'll be a bit of randomness there. What you need to do when you do a particle system, you need to really plan down what you want it to do. And then you get closer to the desired effect at the start. So not as uniform this time. Can't remember what other levels are. I didn't have any more sand. Okay, so you could have ones for like doing like little speckly crumbling of the walls when you shoot them, rather than just disappearing. So I'll leave that up to you. One of your big tasks. Create some good levels. Mess about with all the tank data. So all these like different speeds and the time for the bullets to live. I think the bullets go too long, so I'm going to shorten that to 2 seconds. Because I can shoot nearly all the way across the screen, which is stupid. So that's... Even that's probably still a little bit too long. With the bullets travelling at that speed, it's probably a bit unfair for people. But, yeah. The things that you can do, change all these settings, get it balanced, because it isn't balanced. It'll probably turn too quick, to be honest, as well. Alter the speeding, so we've got like, when we're going across sand, half the speed. Maybe that's too slow. I don't know. That's up to you. And then the other thing is maybe have a go at trying to design. I mean, I can help you with this. Try and design, but you need to come up with what you want the effect to be. Different little particle systems. So we've already got 3 little particle systems already. Okay, I'll leave it at that. The last video that I've got to show you is how to do the viewports. That is the most complicated thing we'll have to do. The complicated bit is actually defining the viewports, not the code to set them up, but defining them is quite tricky. Okay, so that'll be the last video in the sequence. That'll be video 15, I think. Amazing.